Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. You turn on your faucet and nothing comes out. No water. Not because the pipe's broken, not because the pumps failed, but because a drone strike destroyed the only desalination plant supplying your city. Now, imagine that happening in a region where there's more than 40 million people who depend on desalination just to drink. And in the Persian Gulf, that scenario may already be starting. Over the past few days, a dangerous escalation has appeared in the Middle East conflict. On 8 March 26, reports emerged that a desalination plant in Bahrain was damaged by a drone attack attributed to Iran. According to reports from Al Jazeera, the Stars and Stripes, and other outlets. At the same time, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, claims that a desalination plant in Kesem, Keshm island in Iran had been struck, allegedly by U.S. forces. So they're claiming it's retaliation. Whether that claim is true or not, the strategic reality is clear. Water infrastructure has now entered the battlefield. And in the Persian Gulf, that is potentially catastrophic. The Persian Gulf region has one of the most important and unusual water systems in the entire world. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates get much of their drinking water not from rivers, lakes, or groundwater, but from desalination plants that convert seawater into fresh water. Across the Gulf, there are roughly 400 desalination plants. Together, they supply water to around 40 to 42 million people. So, countries that depend on them, they're almost completely. Kuwait gets about 90% of its drinking water from desalination. Oman, about 86%. Saudi Arabia, roughly 70%. And the UAE, about 42%. And Qatar and Bahrain depend on desalination for nearly all of their potable water. In other words, if those plants stop running, the taps stop running. But the real danger isn't just the plants getting attacked. The real danger is how quickly the systems collapse once just a few major plants go offline. There are three main ways that desalination infrastructure could fail in wartime. One, direct drone or missile attack. Desalination plants sit right on the coast, and that makes them extremely visible and vulnerable. Many are within a few hundred miles of Iranian missile and drone bases. A single large plant can supply water for 1 to 3 million people. So a handful of strikes could impact millions of people overnight. Two, energy system collapse. Most desalination plants run on natural gas or oil-fired plants. And if refineries, gas pipelines, or power plants are damaged, the desalination plants simply shut down. And we are already seeing energy infrastructure targeted from across the region. And then third, sabotage or contamination. Desalination plants have strong filtration systems, but any suspected contamination could force authorities to shut the plants down out of caution, and maybe for good reason, because there's a lot of stuff can be put in the water supply. You take out a desalination plant. Even a false alarm could shut a water distribution system down for an entire city or cities. So we got to keep in mind the 3 day rule. Now, here's where things get really serious. The human body can only survive for about 3 days without water. I've talked about that a lot on this channel. But in desert climates, like here, especially in places like the Persian Gulf, it can be even less. The temperatures in the region routinely exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer, kind of like down in Phoenix. Without water, dehydration begins in hours. Hospitals would fill up within days, maybe within a day. And cities could face humanitarian crises in like less than 72 hours. But the real nightmare scenario isn't just people running out of water. It happens when millions try to escape to save time. And mind you, you can't wait till you're out of water to escape. How are you going to cross the desert when you got your last drop? You ain't going to make it. So, and part of the problem is that most Gulf states sit along this narrow body of water called the Strait of Hormuz. And there, this narrow channel handles roughly 20% of the world's oil shipments, as we know. But if this escalates, Iran has functionally closed the Strait of Hormuz. And what that means is shipping is stopping, uh, including fuel shipments, and humanitarian aid slows down dramatically. And evacuation by sea, there's what's critical here, becomes exceedingly difficult. Meanwhile, the Gulf region has very limited overland escape routes, and much of that is surrounding terrain in very harsh deserts, which means millions could find themselves trapped in cities with failing water supplies and really no viable way out. Would be a very bad situation, catastrophic. So this is how the water crisis could escalate. Drone strikes disable a few desalination plants. Energy infrastructure disruptions shut down others. Water shortages begin within 24 to 48 hours. Panic buying and rationing starts in. Mass evacuation attempts begin. Transportation systems clog. Remember, it just says a few overland routes through harsh desert. Within days, a regional humanitarian crisis of epic proportions emerges. And all of it can begin with just a handful of strategic targets. Now, for those of you who've been watching this from the outside, there are several important lessons here. Lesson one: water is the most critical resource. Uh, food shortages can take weeks, but water shortages can take days. Even households that have multiple water storage methods could be at risk, but you should yourself make sure that you have multiple water source and multiple storage methods for your own prepping. So modern societies rely on complex systems. They got to have energy, water, transportation. They all have to work together. Damage to one system often causes cascades into other systems. It's like power. What today runs without power, especially electrical power? Yeah, there's some things that run on gas generators, but that can come up short too. So, lesson three has to do with geographic vulnerability matters. Regions with limited natural water supplies are extremely fragile in conflict. This is one reason water infrastructure is often considered critical national security structure. So let's step back and look at the big picture. A new front may be open in modern warfare, not oil, not missiles, water. You've heard of warnings of water wars. Well, we thought they would start over resources, but this is a lot like that. In the Persian Gulf, over 40 million people rely on desalination plants just to survive. If those plants become regular targets, the consequences could be catastrophic. And as always, the lessons for preparedness is simple. The most important resource you can secure for your family is not gold, not fuel, not even food. It's water. Because when the taps stop running, everything else follows. And remember, you're not going to make it long without it. So And there is one more disturbing factor about these desalination plants that almost no one else talks about. There's a surprising small number of facilities that supply most of the Gulf's water, which means it may take fewer strikes than most people think to create a regional water catastrophe. And that's something we'll be watching here on Green Gregs. So you got to keep an eye on that, my friends. And I've got a video for you to watch. I did a video on many methods to sanitize and purify water. And I'll put the link right here. I appreciate you all watching. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, bang the bell, and click all because we're going to cover a lot more of this kind of stuff down the road. And with that, keep your eyes wide open and head on a swivel. Greg out.